The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go. We do turn now to a story breaking overnight. Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg claims he was pressured by the White House to censor content related to COVID-19 during the pandemic. Aaron Katersky joins us now with details. Aaron, good morning.
Good morning to you, Whit. For years, critics have taken aim at Facebook for silencing views that challenge the general consensus in the medical community, especially about the origin of COVID-19. Now, Facebook's founder surprisingly says they're right.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Thursday. Hey, a little bit of catch up today. And yes, this was not the Facebook Mark Zuckerberg stuff was last week, but I didn't get a chance to talk about it. So I'm going to play catch up on a few different things. And again, the underlying umbrella arch of this episode is the concept of nuance, nuance, looking at things from a nuanced perspective. And so if you're not familiar with the term nuance, it's basically, I guess the best way to think about it is it's something that has like a subtle undertone to it. It's like basically in some ways it's kind of calling a spade, but it's doing it in a very subtle way where you're basically looking at both sides of something and you're pointing out, maybe the slight differences or the slight different meanings or the slight different feelings. It's actually a great term. It's actually a little confusing to totally wrap your mind around. But the way I think about nuance is, you're trying to it's almost, I hate to use the word unpack because I know it's a podcaster term, but it's like you're unpacking something from every side and every angle, and you're looking for the slight variations and slight differences. And so I wanted to start out with, kind of what Zuckerberg did last week, which, to be honest, it's strange to me. I mean, it's strange. I don't see Mark Zuckerberg being like Elon Musk and like going all in on Trump and going all in on the right and really starting to be critical of the Biden administration and Democrats in general, which Elon Musk for sure has. He absolutely has kind of, really changed his tune in a big way and gone pretty hard after the Democrats. And yeah, I mean, he's really sided with Trump. He absolutely has. And again, that was new. He was not like that. Even 3 months ago, I think it was the assassination attempt that really changed something for him. But this admission by Zuckerberg, I don't know, this one feels a little more scripted to me, and it feels like a little more nuanced. Like there's a subtle meaning that wants to get conveyed, but it's not as blatant as like the things Elon Musk is saying.
This morning, Meta chief Mark Zuckerberg admitting he bowed to pressure from the Biden administration to censor content. The Facebook founder issuing a letter to the House Judiciary Committee that said senior administration officials pushed the social media platform to censor posts about COVID-19 and expressed a lot of frustration when the company resisted. Zuckerberg saying, "I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it." Adding, "I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction, and we're ready to push back if something like this happens again."
The one thing I will say is, nuanced or not, the fact that he is making this so vocal, it really causes you to have to accept that, there could have been more to COVID than just the textbook definition. If any of you are of the mindset that it just was what it was a bat biting a pangolin, I think that's that animal's name, and then passing it on to a human in some wet market in China, and then somehow that one occurrence ended up causing a global chain reaction that led to everything that it did. I mean, when you say it out loud like that and string it out like that, come on, you've got to admit that sounds pretty crazy. That sounds pretty insane that could be how it all started and that it was all natural. But again, I'll be open to it. Maybe it was. I don't think so. But then again, maybe it was. So, in terms of COVID and all of this stuff from 2020, 2021, I don't know. I just found it weird that he came out and said that. So I'm wondering if, something over the next couple months is another test of this.
President Biden was asked about misinformation online in the summer of 2021.
On COVID misinformation, what's your message to platforms like Facebook?
They're killing people. I mean, look, the only pandemic we have is among the unvaccinated. And they're killing people.
I know that was hard to hear, but basically Biden in 2021 said, when he was asked, what's your stance on the misinformation about COVID? He said they're killing people. The only people that, are to blame are the unvaccinated.
Biden later walked back the comment, insisting he wasn't attacking Facebook.
That's pretty funny that he walked back saying he wasn't attacking Facebook. When I originally played that, I thought it was going to say that he walked back, that he wasn't attacking the unvaccinated. Oh man, I actually have a couple crazy strung out, and I don't mean that in a drug way. I mean that I found something that spliced together several clips about people blaming the unvaccinated. I will find that and play that on a subsequent episode. It's pretty interesting to hear all the incredibly famous, influential people coming out with that same message, basically blaming everything on the unvaccinated. And hindsight has proven that or they were not to blame for anything. Very interesting. All right. Anyway, so that was one thing I did want to play that I hadn't played yet was, the whole Zuckerberg admission thing that the Biden administration really pressured Facebook to take down things in regards to, what they were calling misinformation. So then the question becomes, okay, what were all those things? And then let's see them. And then let's decide if it was misinformation. Chances are a lot of the stuff will be shown not to be. All right, next clip I'm going to play for you is from my man Kaizen. If you remember, Kaizen was a Deep Shallow Dive interview guest, almost a month or two ago. It was right after the Trump assassination, and he was the one that went viral for basically saying, hey, I'm a Democrat. I never voted for Trump in 2016, 2020, but I can't believe people are coming out saying, they wish he had gotten assassinated. I forget what episode number it was, but it was a really good episode. If you haven't listened to it, go back and look at the interviews, and it's the one with Kaizen. But he has done a really nice job on his social media as of late, really talking about nuanced issues and trying to look at various things from both sides and both angles. And he started this new segment, and he started out with, he started out with a juicy one. Give a listen.
I'm going to tell you why you should vote for Trump. And I'm going to tell you why you should vote for Kamala.
Okay, really quick, just a visual. So he's playing both characters here. He's playing a guy with a MAGA hat on, and then he's playing a guy with a blue Kamala hat on.
The repeal of Roe v. Wade was a total disaster for every woman in this country. And Trump is directly responsible for that disaster because he's the one who put these men and these conservatives on the Supreme Court who don't understand women's rights. And Kamala is going to be the one to undo the damage that Trump did to 50 years of civil rights progress. Women should have total bodily autonomy, full stop.
All right, so that was the blue hat Democrat take, and now here is the red hat Republican take.
Look, ultimately, Trump is a pragmatist, and although he's personally pro-life, he understands that at the end of the day, America is a melting pot full of many different cultures with many different beliefs. And in some of those cultures, abortion is killing a baby and not permissible. So rather than making this sweeping judgment at a federal level about whether abortion should be allowed or not, Trump is just going to allow the states and the communities to decide. And to be clear, Trump has always said that it's okay to have abortions in the case of extreme exceptions like rape or incest.
All right, so collectively, that take from two sides, that's a nuanced take. Again, I hear what he's saying about a woman's body and, my body, my choice and all that stuff. And I can totally respect that. And then by the same token, I can totally respect Trump's side on this, where he's not anti-abortion. He's really not, honestly, if you actually look at what he's personally said, not what the media says he said. He's pretty much did exactly what Kaizen said he did. He's kicked it down to the states, and he wants the states to decide on their own what is beneficial in their state. And then he does support abortion in terms of rape and incest. Now, again, I don't know off the top of my head the term limits in terms of how far along you can be to have that, and I'll research that and I'll definitely get back to you on that. But that again was an example from him of a nuanced take that really, to me, kind of looks at both sides of an issue. And I think what I'm going to do is, and maybe I'll do this after they end up debating next week. So Trump and Kamala are supposed to debate next week, I believe on the 10th. And let's see how that goes. I think it's going to be, I think Kamala's going to do better than most people think she will in that. I really do. I think she is going to win over a lot of people that are a little bit undecided on her right now. And the reason I say that and why I think that is because I think she's going to be super prepared. I mean, again, I do not consider her the sharpest knife in the drawer. I really don't. But at the same time, she's definitely sharp enough with the proper preparation to be able to, deliver what needs to get delivered. And I think she's going to do well in that debate. And Trump doesn't do great in debates. Now, he did do well in the one against Biden. Actually, it wasn't even that he did well. It was that Biden did so terrible. But he never really does well because he doesn't really answer the questions. And that goes back to the same criticism I've given about him so many times on so many different things. And that is he doesn't prepare properly and his team doesn't prepare him. And I don't know, there's nobody there with the guts to stand up to him to basically really get him prepared. So anyway, I think I want to wait for that debate to happen. And then I will absolutely try and go issue by issue and really figure out what their stances are on those respective issues. All right, let's move on. Here's a clip from Nicole Shanahan. She's the one that got picked as RFK's vice president, which, by the way, this is funny. Several episodes ago, I don't even know if anybody caught it or not, but man, she has been so, well, besides for the past 2 weeks and really ever since RFK kind of said, I'm stepping down or I'm suspending my campaign or whatever. But prior to that, she was kind of non-existent. And now she is everywhere. She's talking up a storm. And quite frankly, gosh, I really like a lot of the things she's saying. I wish she had been this boisterous, when she got selected as the vice president. Obviously, she wasn't, because again, there was an episode where I literally had forgotten he had picked her as vice president because I was talking about how, RFK Jr., who's he going to pick? That's so funny. I don't know if anybody recalls that, or while you were listening, you're like, what a dummy. Ray D, he's already picked somebody. But obviously she was so not on my radar, but now she is on my radar. So give this a listen.
I spoke with some of Bobby's family members. They reached out to me, and these are individuals that are in DC. So they're they're on the payroll.
I wish she had elaborated a little more on that. She basically said some of Bobby, by the way, I love it. Anyone that knows Kennedy, they call him Bobby. That's how you know somebody is close to him or thinks they're close to him. They don't call him RFK Jr., they call him Bobby. I will call him RFK Jr. because I'm not close to him. But anyway, I wish she had elaborated a little more on the Kennedy family being on quote unquote payroll. That would have been interesting.
Right.
And they reached out and, they're like, what is it going to take for you to not take this offer? And I said, and I'll be totally honest and let your viewers know. I said, look, we've got to bring back product liability for vaccine manufacturers. We've got to bring that back.
Product liability for vaccine manufacturers. Remember, with the COVID vaccine, the vaccine manufacturers were given what's the word I'm looking for? A pass when it comes to liability for any injuries from the vaccine.
He said, okay, let me see if I can get this done. Reverts. 15 hours later, I hear, can't. Nope, never going to happen.
So again, just to be clear, so someone in the Kennedy family was like, what's it going to take? She's like, we need liability for vaccine manufacturers. And then that person said, okay, let me see if I can get this done. And it's funny, when I heard that, I was thinking the exact same thing as what she's about to say. And again, it was like when she came back and said, no, that's never going to happen.
And I was like, really? Like, who would I even talk to? Like, who did you talk to have that conversation? Like, where does one go within the organization to have that conversation?
Exactly. Like, who did the Kennedy family person talk to say, hey, Nicole said she'd drop out if you guys hold the vaccine manufacturers liable for injuries. So who was that person that was like, no, yeah, that's never going to happen? Who was that? Seriously.
And he said, it's unclear to me, but from the people I talk to who claim that they know, it just can't happen. And so they're sheltering the individuals that are ultimately making the decisions. And, even Bobby's family, I would say they don't really know who's making the decisions, but they acquiesce to the structure.
All right, so the ending got cut off there, but basically she's like, the family doesn't even know. But again, I'm wondering who's the handler for the family? Like, who is the family interacting with for then that person to interact with somebody else in order to come up with that answer? It's definitely not the vaccine manufacturers. They're not going to the CEO of Pfizer and Moderna and saying, hey, will you guys agree to this? So there's definitely a layer, I want to say above, because it technically is above that. But anyway, I thought that was an interesting clip from her. Like I said, she's had several other good ones as of late. I do think she is going to... I think we're going to hear more from Nicole Shanahan. I kind of initially just thought she was a nothing burger and basically providing campaign funding, but I think she's pretty sharp. I've listened to a few different things and I think she's pretty sharp. So I think that's another name that's going to be on the radar for the, who knows, independent entity or maybe the Republican entity if they really do kind of fold into the Trump camp wholeheartedly. All right, next up, this is super interesting.
These people were told that these quotes came from Hillary Clinton when they actually came from Donald Trump, and they agreed with everything.
When Hillary Clinton said, I see improved relations with Russia from a position of strength only as possible.
I agree with Hillary.
Hillary Clinton said, immigration is a privilege and we should not let anyone into this country who doesn't support our communities, all of our communities.
Well, I'd virtually have to agree with that.
Hillary said, in order to achieve the American dream, let people keep more money in their pockets and increase after-tax wages.
Yes, okay. It's in order that's a great idea so that we can start to move everybody up and start moving people out of the level of poverty.
And obviously runs fairly severe contrast to what Donald Trump is proposing.
Absolutely. Many of her comments run severe contrast to Donald Trump.
I love these social experiments. I think they're hilarious. They're even funnier when you watch them on video. It's a little harder to get the true, ridiculousness of them from the audio. But again, how crazy is it that all these people are agreeing to what Trump said simply because they think Hillary said it?
And obviously runs fairly severe contrast to what Donald Trump is proposing.
Absolutely. Many of her comments run severe contrast to Donald Trump.
All right, there's a few more of these. These are funny. And this next one particularly is hilarious. Again, remember, this is Trump saying it, but they're answering it as if it was Hillary saying it.
What do you think of this quote from Hillary? There's nothing I love more than women, but they're really a lot different than portrayed. They're far worse than men, far more aggressive, and boy, can they be smart.
I agree. I've worked for 38 years in the hospital with women, and that's a very accurate.
And you think that's obviously a sharp contrast to her opponent?
Absolutely.
Hillary Clinton said, I like the concept of local education. I want to get rid of Common Core. I think Common Core is a disaster.
Well, I'm an educator. I'm a school teacher. I think Common Core is a disaster, too.
Now, I don't know, God, I wish they had captured the expression or really the response of all those people after being told that it was actually Trump who said all that. But anyway, I wanted to play that for you because, again, it's like the biggest thing that me personally, my biggest awakening, so to speak, has been over the past several years that you really have to be nuanced about politics, especially, and just about everything, and really look for the subtle differences, subtle variations, what's the word I'm looking for? Really just look for things that make sense or don't make sense. Really apply your own common sense to things. Just because you see it on the front page of CNN, MSNBC, or Fox, or Newsmax, or News Nation, or whatever outlet, or the AP, or, anyone, remember, those articles and that information, everything we call quote unquote news, is being reported by another human being who created that content. And then that human being is obviously working for a company that, has a narrative, has a position, has an influence on the way they want things to go. And so, it's because of people's awakening to that simple concept. Now, again, I'm not saying don't agree with what you read on any of those outlets, but what I'm saying is don't take it as gospel and that like God himself or herself was the one who gave you that news. Remember, it's coming from an entity, and that entity could have an ulterior motive in mind. I think that simple realization is really what I want most for everybody that listens to this podcast. And I think that is happening, to an extent across the globe. And I think that people are, they're kind of thinking for themselves a little bit. I really do. I have absolutely seen an uptick in this. And I think that's healthy. Again, I think it's healthy. I think it's very, very healthy to question things. And I think it's even healthier to question things from the side that you agree with and the side that you support if something they say doesn't quite make sense to you. You don't have to just go with it because that's your team or your party or your person or whatever. You can question everything. And again, asking questions, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, anyone that gets defensive when somebody asks a question, that to me shows, they're probably trying to be misleading or there's something they're hiding. That actually was a perfect little segue into this little clip from Denzel. So give this a listen. Denzel Washington. I love this.
If you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. If you do read it, you're misinformed.
So what do you do?
That's a great question. What is the long-term effect of too much information? One of the effects is the need to be first, not even to be true anymore. So what a responsibility you all have to tell the truth, not just to be first, but to tell the truth. We live in a society now where it's just first. Who cares? Get it out there. We don't care who it hurts. We don't care who we destroy. We don't care if it's true. Just say it, sell it. Anything you practice, you'll get good at. Including BS.
I really liked that he was talking to a group of journalists and it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense what he just said. And he's right. Right now, more than anything, it's about being first and really amplifying that message that you're first with. And a lot of times, even if that's not the real truthful message, because you're first and it gets spread like wildfire through social media, even if you come back and say, oh, sorry, that was not correct, the damage has already been done. It's like the analogy of in a courtroom when a lawyer says something, I object, sustained, but the jury heard it already. And there's no way it doesn't influence you because you've already heard it and it's been planted in your mind. All right, last clip for the day. I'm going to play a clip from this comedian, Dave Smith. I've played him a few times, I believe, on this podcast. He is a very sharp guy. He really is. And he's one of the folks that's really made a name for himself over the past really 10 months. Primarily, a lot of it is speaking out on the Gaza stuff, but then he's obviously branched out into different topics. And he really does have a very nuanced look at politics and global affairs. He considers himself a libertarian, and I'm actually going to try and get a libertarian on the show to basically help us understand what the hell the libertarians are all about. And then I'm also trying to get Jill Stein from the Green Party to come on. I don't know if she's going to come on, but hopefully somebody from the Green Party organization will come on. But I wanted to play this clip because it's nuanced, and, I've played a lot of positive stuff or said a lot of positive things about RFK Jr. or Bobby. I should call him Bobby. I've said a lot of positive things about Bobby. But, again, I have... And I did the other day say the one critique of him is that he definitely has been off brand when it comes to any type of empathy toward, the Palestinian people. And so Dave does a nice job in kind of bringing this out a lot in greater detail than I did. All right, give this a listen, call a spade, and I've got a part 2 coming up from the unprocessed foods health episode from the other day. I've got some more good quotes from Dr. Casey Means and her brother Callie Means, and we're going to keep health on our radar. All right, give this a listen. Dave Smith, call a spade.
Give us your assessment of Bobby Kennedy.
Going around with Rabbi Shmuley as your campaign advisor, once I saw that, I was like, I can't. It's too much. Like 70% of Democrats oppose this war and want a ceasefire. I think 50% of them consider it a genocide. On the Republican side, obviously, there's a lot of America First people who could be persuaded that we shouldn't be involved in these conflicts. Bobby Kennedy had a real chance to make, if he was non-interventionist on this war, I think he would have made some huge waves, and I think that really hurt him. He lost a bunch of people on his campaign staff because he was the anti-war guy. Had a whole bunch of young anti-war people who were like, oh no, I'm not going to be a part of this now.
The ending was terrific.
This episode was brought to you by the new book Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.